Like I said, it happens, and hopefully some kids can learn from it, but just don't get caught.
I'm down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk.
I'm down to dunk.
This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
We say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Cracklin Oat Bran?
Have you had Cracklin Oat Bran?
No,
No. Okay.
but it's healthy.
Are you a big oat brand guy?
I'm a big Oat Bran guy.
Okay.
I think I would switch it with Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, eat faster. Don't put as much in the bowl.
If you have a gallon of milk, I can also take home.
You don't have milk at home?
One cinnamon toast.
Okay.
Yeah. Cereal is great. Yeah.
Good morning and welcome to episode 130 of Down to Dunk. You can find us on The Athletic and anywhere else you subscribe to your podcast. Go to theathletic.com/down2gunk and get The Athletic for $1 a month for 6 months. I am Luke. Joined this morning by Andrew.
I gotta say, I'm just fired up to be here today. It's pretty cool. Pretty damn cool. Woo!
Slam throw.
And Jay.
It's Jay.
Well, guys, last week we had a party
We did.
About
a
a-
week ago today.
about a basketball game.
It still feels like it was way longer than that, though.
It really does.
That's weird.
It really does. I had thought
Just a full week.
even yesterday, like, man, it's been a long time since we've done a FriPod.
It was a long week.
It's just like 1 week. It
Yeah.
did feel like a very long week.
lot of basketball this week. A lot of basketball.
Yeah, a lot of basketball.
A lot of talking about basketball.
It's true. A lot of it. A lot of it.
So this past week, obviously, the Thunder lost on Friday night in difficult. I wouldn't say embarrassing. It was just a difficult game to play and lose. And they lost by a lot.
You could be embarrassed if you want.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not going to be embarrassed for other guys if they're not. So then
No.
Saturday, they get on a plane, fly into Oklahoma City. Should have thrown our boy Joe on so that he didn't have to, like, planes, trains, and automobiles his way back,
Yeah.
or Home Alone, whichever John Candy movie you'd prefer.
Mm.
Is in the back of a U-Haul van, but
Mhm.
he gets what he get there at like 30 minutes of sleep.
Yeah. He said he slept like 45 minutes on the plane.
Anyway, so they have exit interviews on Saturday, which I know Michele, Alex in particular, talked quite a bit about that.
Yeah.
And then Sam Presti, this would have been yesterday, right? Thursday, if you're listening
Yesterday.
to this not on Friday, had his end of the season interview. Lasted about what, 2 hours?
2 hours, 17 minutes. That's what I clocked in at.
That's what you collected. in. Did you set an actual stopwatch?
I was like,
Yeah, you had like a button.
Yep.
So Andrew, I want to give you just some space because I haven't listened to it yet. I'm not even sure. Have you did you record it and put it out yet?
I put it out last night.
Yep. So it's out last night. If you want to listen to it, you can do that. But Andrew, why don't you give us a couple 10 to 15
Minutes.
highlights
No.
from Presti's interview yesterday?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that he kept mentioning over and over again was about how this team is not a 500 team and that they still have a ways to go. But he did say that they were staring down the second mountain that they're about to climb.
Mm.
I thought that was kind of something that he kept bringing up over and over again.
Yeah. So who is Justin Case asked this question? Says, what did you think of Presti's overall appearance? To me, he seemed more casual and more sentimental than usual. Also, why did he keep saying that we're not a 500 team? So what do you think he was saying by that?
I think he meant that they weren't a 500 team. They didn't finish a 500 team. They finished 2 games under 500.
It's true.
Do you not think there's part of it that he was making sure to like temper expectations for this team?
I mean, that's always what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
do you think he's a big ice climbers guy?
Like he uses the ice climbers in
Smash Bros. That's his main. Yeah, because I do.
I think it's very possible, and I bet
Popo and Nana.
I bet he's very good with Popo and Nana.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I think so too. Because he's talking about looking down the next mountain. He's a big Popo Nana guy.
He's probably a giant Popo Nana guy. The Popo Nana guy was just wearing a V-neck shirt. I think that's what he's talking about with his appearance.
Wow.
So he did seem more casual. Usually he's wearing. I mean, I don't know that he usually dresses a little bit more casually for these things. So I don't want to overanalyze that.
I think he had a concert to go to right after.
He might have. Yeah, I think he is trying to temper expectations for sure. He's also just trying to give a snapshot of what they were because they played so well down the stretch that we sometimes forget about the struggles that they had early on in the season. And so I think he wants to give like a full snapshot because I don't know, with the way they ended the season, I don't know that you would think about them as a 500, as like a team that's under 500 necessarily when you would talk about like summarizing the season for them.
I have a question, and it comes from a Twitter question because
okay.
It seems like this is a good one. It's from Zach D. He wants to know what question that Sam answered surprised you the most with his response.
So I asked him about Lou Dort and just his thoughts on his season. So with the ups and downs of, the Lou Dort experience. And he said that basically he should be on an all defense team. And that
he's like, if he's not, then you just didn't watch enough basketball.
Yeah. He's like, you can tell that people weren't watching this year because if they did, he would have been on an all defensive team, which is that's not the way that Sam operates. Like he's not going to go out there and say that Shea deserved MVP votes or whatever. Like he doesn't ever talk like that. So that really did surprise me that he was willing to like step out there for Lou. He said that when he talks to other teams about their team, he said that they always bring up like specific points, like 3 or 4 specific points. And one of them is always about Lou Dort and about how he affects the game. And so he was willing to step out there and say that, which it did surprise me. I didn't think he'd say that. I thought we'd get some stock answer basically, but I thought that was pretty good.
Anything else that was out of Sam Presti's character?
No, not out of his character. No, I thought this was good. This is good life advice. This is good marriage advice. But this is also talking about his overall like relationship with Shea and like the team's relationship with Shea.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was interesting. So he basically talks about how teams and players, they don't challenge one another, that it's all about appeasement. He says, I think relationships can't be built on appeasement. At least no relationship that I have seen be successful in that way. I think you have to be open. You have to work together. You have to challenge and continually raise the bar. I think the best thing about Shea is he responds well to that. In this world today, I think the player is a victim of something or a team is a victim. And when you're in a relationship, you're together in that. You work hard, you work through things together, and you have to talk about this stuff together. And you might disagree about things, but you have to have a basis of that. So I just thought, and he talked about how Shea doesn't just need to be appeased, And I don't know if that's referencing like other Thunder players of past, or if they're just talking about how like Kevin and Kyrie basically needed to be appeased. And
do you think
Brooklyn
maybe a subtweet?
I think it's a subtweet of like the NBA itself and like the NBA stars, and it's just kind of a testament to Shea in that he is willing to like be challenged and to not just be. I mean, Shea, from all accounts, is like treated as one of the guys, and isn't treated like isn't like put up on a pedestal above everybody else, which is really unusual because
So
those guys demand it.
let me just ask this as a, it's not in devil's advocate kind of thing, but it is just asking, if you look at where Shea is in his timeline, is that simply a result of, number one, the probable answer, or what I've at least perceived, is it's a character of him. Like that's just who he is.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But also, is he young enough to where he's still kind of figuring his way out? And who knows that at 29 or 30, does he begin to get more in that place? And I think that's why Sam is drafting a particular type of person.
Yeah. I think so too.
Because I think he drafted incredibly, in those early Thunder years. But there were personalities, and I don't think any of them had like dramatic personality flaws, but there were three pretty dominant yet different personalities. We just didn't know it because and the only reason I'm saying this is because we thought Kevin Durant was kind of like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and now like watching him in a Suns uniform play against Westbrook in a Clippers uniform, like it's just like, sometimes I just look at it like, what happened?
Just watching the servant do his thing.
Yeah, it's just like what in the world happened? Yeah, I think Kevin could have been perceived that way, certainly.
But the problem is at the time, that's the narrative that the team was putting out there.
Mhm.
And so it worries me a little bit, like this is just the narrative that the team is putting out about Shea. Like maybe he's actually a nightmare to work with. Maybe it's like they're just saying these things because that's how he wants to be seen.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's true.
Yeah, I don't think.
But
that's
the
true.
past way that the Thunder have operated, and knowing what we know now, like about KD specifically, makes me think maybe that is what's happening.
Well, it was no secret, like with like Westbrook, how difficult things were.
Yeah, but it kind of was a secret that
no matter
KD
what was being said,
it was hard with KD.
I don't think it was hard with KD. I think KD also just didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
For a long time. Kevin was not ever difficult. Like I think that a lot of people within the Thunder still maintain relationships with Kevin.
Yeah.
Like really close relationships with Kevin. And while they may disagree on things, like they still speak to this day and have solid relationships. I think Shea is a little bit more sure of himself than Kevin was, and he's like way more like wants to be the leader, wants to take on everything within the franchise, where Kevin was really not.
Yeah, he was always pretty hesitant with that aspect of it.
He always kind of let Russell take that, and this is not just from what Sam said. I've had conversations with a lot of people that have been around Shea over the past few years, and he is apparently just they think about him as like this feels too good to be true with how great he's been to everybody. And so,
well, and even just going back to his exit interview conversation about Mark, like for him to say stuff like that, especially like if you go back and you look at KD, one of the things that and I could be wrong about this, and some of it is just like viewing his past through his present.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at certain moments where things were said, but I remember that the Billy Donovan hire, and I don't know if this was after or if this was during, where it was like there was kind of this, it felt like skepticism from the team about the Billy Donovan hire. Was that perception, or was there anything? I can't, that's why I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember that accurately enough.
I know in hindsight they were like, "Oh yeah, college coach, blah 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 blah." But I'm like, so for Shea, and part of it is just the perfectly timed youthfulness.
Yeah,
they kind of are growing up together in some sense. Although Mark, is a 70-year-old in a 38-year-old's body.
Yeah,
but as you watch these interviews, you're just getting this total humility and buy-in with the way this organization is being created, or this era of the organization is being formed.
Yeah.
And the way that it's being led
Mm-hmm.
by Mark in particular, and they don't, I didn't catch much of it because I didn't re-listen to all of it, but I don't know how much of the team emphasized Presti and his role in a lot of, but I do know that the Mark conversations become a very big part of the conversation.
Yeah, and they were asked about Mark for the most part. I don't know. We didn't really ask them what they thought of Sam, and like working with him, just because of the working relationship isn't as like public facing, I guess. He did talk about how this team needs to be more physical, and talked about how they need to be more nasty. And so someone asked him, is that maybe the number one priority with the organization, through free agency or the draft? And he basically said no. He basically turned that back around and said that it needs that they need the team itself right now to be more physical. Like they need the guys that are on the team now to be more physical. Like they're not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, we're going to go, get a center. We're not going to like trade for Jonas Valanciunas or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting to address.
Yeah, I mean, and I do wonder if there's any part of his draft strategy that reflects that, because we have been under the assumption that he's kind of creating a team full, and this is what he's ultimately saying, is he's creating a team full of guys who can do multiple things, unique size for their position, high IQ, all of that. So I'm wondering if, and I don't think so, I think this is what he's trying to say. So if he does draft a Rupert, which for me is like, that's who he's going to draft.
It's very Thunder. Yeah.
Is the expectation is that instead of drafting a guy or even seeking in free agency or through a trade, the nasties, we need the guys that we bring in to see that as part of who they need to be as they grow together.
Definitely.
That feels more of what he's saying. It's not, he's not going to go trade for the Draymond Green or pick him up in free agency so they can increase their nastiness. Although that'd be terrible. Terrible though.
You do not want I do not want Draymond Green around this group of guys.
Yeah, especially when when you're talking
you
about
want some nasty.
Well, you've been talking about
no,
that you have
not
Shea
like that.
and how great Shea is and what a great leader he is, and then just to be like, oh, by the way, we're drafting Draymond, who is going to totally take over that position or try to.
Oh my god,
and not do what you want to do. I think it's the thing that I like. I think it helps so much Shea having Chris Paul there for that first year.
Yeah.
And like seeing like his leadership and all that stuff. So I think it's really good. It also helps all of the younger guys to model, see like he's the top guy, but he's not like, doing some things that probably they hear their other friends, everyone in the league is friends. And so they're thinking like, oh, that's not what I've heard people on other teams are acting like.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's really good.
It was the perfect time of Chris Paul too, apparently.
Yeah.
Just the 1 year.
And the perfect length.
Perfect. Yeah. It's like not too much, where all of a sudden it becomes Chris Paul's team.
Yeah.
Like it was
no expectations.
That was a big deal. And I know Sam mentioned it in a different way, but the Al Horford era, that was just very brief.
Yeah.
There is a value to having those guys a part of your organization, even just in part, like in passing, because they bring a professionalism. I know for Al, he's talking about specifically the way that he could see a different center on the floor, which is going to be not the same, but it will feel similar.
Yeah.
Pardon me, for Chet in the sense of his ability to stretch the floor.
Yeah.
Al is just a professional. I mean, he's just a fantastic player.
Still feels weird that he was a Thunder player.
And what was it for like 45 games? And then they're like, all right, you can just go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing he said is when you talk about development of our players, a big part of the development of our players, if you look at where some guys took off, J-Dub specifically, and Josh a little bit, and Isaiah, it's when we started playing smaller. So some of the stylistic focus some of that stylistic focus helped like drive development for them.
I think when he's talking about like being nasty, when he's in that quote right there, I think that tells me he's not going to draft a like center,
He's
like
not going
a
to get Jarris Walker
traditional
either.
center. He's like, you guys need to be tough. We're playing small. You guys need to get in there, do it, because you're not going to have a traditional center there in the middle to get all these rebounds. It has to be you guys. Is I think what he's not just saying, but I think what he's saying, talking around.
Yeah, I would be pretty shocked if the starting lineup going into next season isn't Shea, Giddey, Dort, J-Dub, Chet.
Well, and to kind of give at least a little, and he knows this more than any of us, is a little bit of confidence to the way this roster is constructed. I think Giddey is going to be I think long term, Giddey is going to be the guy that, and you saw bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
His competitiveness, he could be somebody that could lead that kind of more tough physical side of it. And then even though Chet, it's funny because Chet is assumed because he's so thin, that he's a more finesse kind of guy, but that dude is competitive.
Yeah.
He is, arrogant on the basketball court.
He's a maniac. Yeah.
He is
doesn't shy away from physicality.
Exactly. And that's, I guess ultimately what I'm saying. So I think just adding those two guys, 1 year of development for Giddey, adding Chet, and then I think the leader of this way of playing for the Thunder, which made a dramatic difference at the end of the season, is Kenrich Williams.
Yeah.
He's the tone setter for this team, specifically in that direction.
And Lou Dort.
And Lou, of course. Yeah. He gets so overlooked, and I feel awful for even doing that. But between those guys, I think you have the ingredients on the roster to have a physical and a team that, and you do see it, man. That's what's so awesome about this. For being 20 years old, 24 years old, all of these young guys, they don't back down from anybody.
Yeah, it's true.
Like they didn't play well against Minnesota, but Minnesota's not a team that's going to insert its will at, they're the most fake tough guy outside of Anthony Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Fake tough guy team in the NBA, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's totally true. I think it's totally true. I do not like that team at all. That's what I hated watching that game on Friday just because they were losing to that team,
Only way it could have been worse if it was like we met Houston in the play-in.
Yeah, that would have been brutal. And they lost like that to Houston.
Oh, that would have been awful.
Yeah, that'll never happen. I thought that was interesting. He also talked a little bit about how they are going to have to learn to play with different types of bigs at some point. But he seemed to emphasize that they want to play this style and that this style is a work in progress. And it's just more easily accomplished, I think, with the smaller, more skilled players than it is with just like throwing somebody in there. And that's why I just hesitate. And I feel better about hesitating for a while after hearing him talk about particular players in the draft, especially like Taylor Hendricks, who I really like. And I think that it's not hard to imagine how he'd fit in with the team. And maybe they will draft him, and I'll be completely wrong about this, but he's not a guy who has a ton of feel for the game. And so I just have a hard time picturing them drafting somebody like that who's going to play a big role on the team that doesn't have a lot of feel for the game. I think that that's the direction they've been moving in, and I think they'll continue to move in that direction. I think to me that was like a point of emphasis for him too. It's just the style of play, and the way that they're kind of running everything. Just it makes more sense for them to draft somebody that can fit more seamlessly with the offense. And there will be players like that fit in, but there's also guys that you can look at and say, like, I don't think they necessarily fit that mold. So I think that this draft is going to be fascinating. I don't know what they're going to do because there's not necessarily outside of Repair like somebody that's like, oh my gosh, this is a Thunder type of guy, that they've drafted in the past. So I'm pretty fascinated to see.
Yeah, and I think
how they handle it.
Having the amount of draft equity in the future, especially in the immediate future, although if 2024 is as rough as people are saying it's going to be, which nobody ever knows, but as far as assumptions, like I don't think those picks are going to have as high a value, but I do wonder, if they do target the guy, if they're at 12, lottery doesn't move them up. If they target somebody at 9, like maybe they do go with Grady Dick, right? Like maybe that is hey, we see this as a glaring weakness for our team. Let's get a stretchy kind of bigger guy that can just shoot. Doesn't have to think about the game, just shoot. Then, maybe he targets that and moves up. But this is actually he's going to make it to where draft night's going to be even more. And we'll see. There's been years in the past where the Thunder's pick has been nailed by those who do mocks, where there's like Cameron Payne. We remember that where there was like Thunder going to pick Cameron Payne. Thunder going to pick Cameron Payne.
Yeah.
They're all just like, no, they're not going to pick Cameron Payne. There's all sorts of other guys.
Yeah.
And then it was
We
Cameron
were
Payne.
kind of hoping they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Pick Cameron Payne.
Just one pick higher for Devin Booker.
Never forget.
Never forget.
Never forget. Never forgive.
So, but currently they're in 12. If you go to Tankathon, which is not a great mock, they have Case and Wallace, which doesn't seem like anybody that they would ever draft.
I don't think so.
KOC has them taking Nick Smith from Arkansas, which is also somebody I don't really think they would bite on.
He just wasn't very good. I mean, maybe they see something in him.
Yeah, because he came into the league he was a highly rated early mock drafts before the season even started. He was a top 3 or 4 guy.
Yeah.
But did not materialize. Now Anthony Black's a higher, on everybody's big board than Smith was.
Right. He's amazing. Awesome.
Because KOC has him at, I think, 7.
Yeah, I've seen him as high as 5 on some boards.
Does it make you feel justified?
I feel so justified.
You should.
That's my guy.
That is your guy.
He was asked if Chet's going to play summer league, and I just thought,
nope. But then he said,
it's possible, which basically just means yes.
I know.
Because why would he say it's possible?
He could just say no.
He should have. I mean, if it's even like a 10% chance, he'd just say probably not. We'll see where he's at, and then move on. But whenever he leads with it's possible, I think that means that they probably plan on that being a part of his rehab, is like getting back on the court and playing and just getting some confidence, which is very interesting. It's very interesting.
I mean, I'm trying to think of who else goes. Poku?
Maybe. Oos?
Oh, definitely Oos. Definitely Oos.
Yeah.
I think
J-Dub
Trey,
not going to play.
Man.
Trey might need it, but there's not a lot of third-year summer leaguers. But
yeah,
he could
a reason.
He could use it.
I'm trying to think who else is. I mean, JRE may play. I would see that. I mean, he's the same. He's a third-year guy.
The same.
But
yeah,
he had that injury just threw his whole season off. I don't know. Like last year, you knew it was like, oh, dude, half the roster is going to be playing in summer league. Josh not going to play in summer league this year.
Better not play in summer league this year.
Josh
Giddey. No, I mean it's kind of weird, huh? That like the vast majority of the core of the team is like out of that summer league era.
Yeah. Are you going to summer league this year?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We're gonna be doing a live show in Vegas with no dunks at a location that we don't know yet.
At a location.
We're in the very, very early planning.
You should probably do it at Earl of Sandwich.
What's that?
That's a great sandwich place.
Okay.
It's like Subway.
It's like Subway, but better in every way. Like Subway was made for kings. It's so good.
Wow.
So can we? I want to talk just a little bit about the rest of the NBA.
Yeah.
How are you? How much of the playoffs are you consuming?
A lot.
Like it's your job.
Yeah.
Some late nights.
Yeah, it's like every night's a late night right now.
Anybody out there uniquely impressive to you? Or surprising, I guess would be another way to say that.
I mean, the Kings, they weren't very good last night. You have to be impressed with the Kings.
Yeah.
With the way that they played up to this
I mean,
point.
they're the if you don't have a a vested interest in a team,
Yeah.
the Kings, and somebody asks that question
Yeah.
in our Twitter questions, is who you pulling for?
Shout out to,
it has to be the
Stone
Kings.
Cold S Adams.
It
Gotta be.
has to be the Kings.
Got to be Sacramento.
Oh yeah, it's Kings. I think Taylor tweeted that.
They're also really, it's not just because, oh man, the underdog's getting this shot to, they're also awesome to watch play basketball.
Yeah, they're great. They're very fun.
And then the crowd, obviously, there's a whole bunch of reasons. It
I
does
hope
make me nervous.
I hope we get a game 7 in
Yeah.
Sacramento.
yeah.
Get them lighting the beam afterwards. It's
After a game,
it's pretty cool.
if they win a game 7 and light the beam,
It's gonna be wild.
they should bring in Nick Stauskas.
Be like a real laser.
Yeah.
Just like shoots into space.
Just tearing up
just like
satellites.
destroys the moon.
Yeah. So the Kings, I'll tell you one of the, just on a personal level, and you mentioned this on Wednesday, Russell Westbrook is saving his career
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
in these 3 playoff games. Like
He-
last night, he was that MVP season Russ.
He was so good last night. I didn't think he had this left in him, to be honest.
No, and it does for me, is it just makes me think, all right, so what does his offseason look like? Because if
Yeah.
I'm Russ, I'm his management, I'm just going to take whatever the Clippers can give me and stay in LA. Like if they have a mid-level, or if they have, a vet, I mean, I would probably even take a vet minimum, which is a slice of humble pie. But
Yeah.
you've already earned. I mean, I think I looked up last night. Russell Westbrook's earned like $340 million over his career, just in NBA earnings, let
I
alone
was
any
gonna
other
say.
kind of endorsements or whatever.
Can
So easily he's
double
probably,
or triple
I
that.
was about to say, he's easily crossed $500 million that he has made over the course of his
Oh, yeah.
career. It's like, be in the right place for a chance to continue. Like watching this Clippers team, I think if Paul George is there, they're probably up 3-0 against this.
Yeah, the Suns have like won in kind of like unimpressive fashion a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially last night. Like they should have.
They should.
They couldn't put this Clippers team to bed.
Yeah.
You know, and
Part of that is,
I
I think part of that is the Russell Westbrook just dragging a team. Like you want to talk about what he's used to, is he used to playing with a team that he is like the singular alpha.
Yeah.
And that's what he got to be last night. You
Yeah.
know, Norm Powell was great. I think he had 42 or whatever, but
yeah,
I don't know. He's been really impressive. I haven't paid as much attention to what's going on in the East. I always like this Milwaukee Bucks. Like, oh, we lose the first game, and then we remember that, especially against the Heat, like stomping them into oblivion. The second game without Giannis is like, oh, perfect. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
But we need him back. I want him back just for the league.
Yeah, I just let Giannis rest the rest of this series. I think they can beat him without him.
So side story. So my son, he played basketball, JV basketball at his school this year. And so we went to the Nike outlet to get him some basketball shoes.
Nice.
And so we're looking around, and he's just now kind of becoming a sneakerhead a little bit, and it's kind of a trend in his school. And so my mom bought him a pair of Jordans for his birthday, or no, for Christmas. And I think they're, no offense to him, the worst. I'm like, you could not have bought a worse pair of Jordans. Anyway, because all I can think about is the greatest Jordans of all time, which are the ones that had the patent leather. Like
What color? What color are we talking about?
I don't even want to say it. It makes me sad.
Come on.
They're black and yellow, like taxi. That's called like the anyway. So all that to say, he doesn't even wear them correctly. Like they're all loose on his feet and stuff like that. And I'm like, what are you doing? Anyway, but so he bought, like we went through, we looked at a few different shoes, and he landed on the Giannis, like, because the outlet's like 2 years ago, Giannis shoes, and they're great basketball shoes. But what happened is it actually made my son a Giannis fan.
Wow.
Like he's pulling for the Bucks. He's like, oh, how are the Bucks doing? And then what I see is he uses my YouTube account so I can just watch, which has ruined my YouTube experience.
I was going to say your algorithm is.
It's just completely screwed.
I have to have two separate, because I did that too. And I had to like set up one for like my athletic email so that it did not involve.
I'm going to have to do that because
all
it's
the
just
Legos. Yeah.
Legos. And my son is just fascinated with people who build koi ponds and aquariums and ponds and fish.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, so my whole entire YouTube feed which is my miffed and peeved. If it wasn't, if at least it's not terrible stuff. Like I got to take the win. But anyway, all that to say that he started watching.
Take the koi pod.
Seriously.
There's a lot worse things out there. But he's become like, I've started to notice that he starts watching random basketball videos.
Yeah.
So he's starting to watch it's been such a cool revelation because this year he's able to talk to me about like, oh yeah, what'd you think of J-Dub's development this year? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Wait a minute.
What are you?
Are we allowed to talk about this?
Yeah, I was like, what do you know about this? But he still won't sit down and watch a game with me.
Yeah.
He'd rather just go up and watch Legos or something on YouTube. But it is one of those things where I'm catching like a little bit more of that interest. But I was like, dude, if you want to watch the Bucks, man, I will carve out an hour and a half or 2 hours of my 3 hours of my night to sit and watch the brutal Heat. Like I love the Bucks, man. Anyway, but that's just kind of a fun aside. Like my son is finally kind of getting into basketball in the way that not really to the level that I will ever be there, but I'm an unhealthy fan of basketball. But anyway.
Yeah, the Bucks had 25 threes against the Heat. Just buried them. It's fun sharing that, basketball fandom with your kids.
Yeah.
You should get into Legos. That's what it sounds like.
No.
Oh, it's cool.
Never did.
Cool. Start spending some money.
Were you Legos? Were Legos a thing when y'all were young?
Yes.
Yeah, they were a thing. Yeah.
But not like this.
I mean, Lego is peaking right now.
Yeah. Peaky Lego.
That's big.
Peaky Baka Lego.
I'm telling you. Big. Lego's big.
I know
it's an investment.
Luke, I know.
It's an investment.
My son has an insane amount of money invested in Legos.
You can't even open them. You just buy them.
No, that's not what he does.
They increase in value.
He's got them all put together.
Moron.
That is the complication though, because it's like you put them together and then you just put them on a shelf, and it's like,
I did it.
That's all. That's what we do with this. Yep.
What do you want him to do with it?
Yeah.
Just disassemble it, reassemble it. That's really bad podcasting. So if you're watching on YouTube,
no, it's great. No, this is peak podcasting actually. Yeah.
So anybody else, any other playoff series that you've enjoyed watching so far?
I mean, the East mostly is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see the Knicks are back home against that's the only series
that's the only East series that's decent. Yeah.
Although apparently last night I didn't watch it, but Philly and the New Jersey Nets from 2002. But Philly and Brooklyn turned into a wrestling match, which was something.
It's just gross. I don't know. I don't enjoy watching that series. I kind of had my eye on it a little bit last night, but it's just more of a spectacle.
Yeah, but the NBA is better when the Knicks are good.
The Knicks are really good. They're really fun. They have a lot of really good players. I like that team a lot. I don't think they're going to win the series, but I like them.
I like it when the Knicks, like if they win the series, the fan reaction stuff that gets on like Twitter and
it's so good.
That's tonight, right? They're playing tonight.
So funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a must watch just because of how fun Madison Square Garden gets.
Oh, yeah. If Spider-Man shows up after, man, it's awesome. Just partying in the streets. Oh man.
Let's take a break and we come back. Let's do a tankathon spin and then we'll do some L-Man's advice. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back after that quick break. The Thunder don't have great odds to jump up. I'll tell you.
No, I did Tankathon the other day, and I was like explaining to my dad what Tankathon was. He was like, "Okay, we'll roll it until the Thunder gets the first." Don't do that,
except for the actual Tankathon Twitter. The first two spins, 2 days in a row, both times Oklahoma City got number one.
It's true.
I just did it, and Utah jumped to number one.
Wow. Okay, here's the official Down to Dunk FriPod spin. Here we go. So the Thunder stay at 12. Washington jumps to number one. And the Magic get number 2. And the Rockets get number 3.
Damn it!
There's a question on there of the dream scenario. Will you find who it's from, L-Man?
Oh, yeah, I can't.
Dream scenario, not only the Thunder jumping up,
but
like
who falls is the dream scenario.
So
the Rockets dropping.
The Rockets dropping to 3 is good.
I actually kind of want the Pistons to drop too.
Pistons dropped 4 spots in this one.
It's from at I am Kev Bot.
Yeah.
Obviously-
Frequent TQer.
Yes.
Yeah, the Spurs dropping this one as well. So is there anybody that you like around 12?
I mean, I haven't done enough in-depth real looking at this the way obviously you have. So most of mine is just based on secondary information and stuff you say. And I do think that Repair is a real option. He's got great athleticism. He's got that dog in him. Got that dog in him, which is the difference between him, because you're nailed it. Because as soon as you watch that, I watched Draft Deepers, which they're great content, but I watched their kind of, which I hate highlight films.
Video
It's
breakdown.
just like, you're like our offense. And
There's a place for, it's a great snapshot of who those players are. Yeah.
And so, because I used to be a Draft Express junkie back in the day, where it was like watching their breakdowns and all of that. But all that to say that he's different. Looking at him, there is some similarities between him and Ousmane Dieng, but in the end, it's like they're totally different players.
Yeah, that's what's killing me. Is like all I did was like tweet and say like, "Hey, this is a very thundery player." People are like, "We don't want another Ousmane Dieng." You know, it's like that's probably half the responses.
Yeah, they're not the same.
It's just give it 5 seconds to look at something else other than like this 20-second clip of him. And I don't know. That kind of like analysis is like so lazy and so infuriating to me, because it's unfair to Repair and to Dieng, honestly. And it's frankly a little racist, because they're like French and they look exactly the same. Like you just say that like, oh, they must be the exact same player. I don't want him because he is just like this. And it's like, what are you honestly doing? What are you doing with your time to where you take the time to respond that way to that tweet, but you wouldn't take just like 5 seconds to see what this guy's like? He is different in a lot of ways. Even though like he was a high school teammate of Dieng's and basically followed in Dieng's footsteps, going to the Breakers.
Yeah, I mean, there are similarities. You can't avoid that, but in the end, if you watch their game, it's not the same. I don't have a lot of other guys. I like the idea. I've said this from the beginning, and there's no way he falls to 12. I know he's not a Thunder guy in the sense that how this is kind of being defined, but I know somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but they had Cam Whitmore falling. I would do that just because I love his incredible athleticism.
He can definitely fall.
I do like Jordan Hawkins, that kid from UConn, really good. That's who Sam Vecini, which has been a while now, but that's who he has mocked.
Yep.
To Oklahoma City at 12. Beyond that, I
older than Giddey, which is weird.
But honestly, at this point, isn't that wouldn't you be okay with that?
I mean, I feel like not really, no. It'd be fine if that's who they decided to draft. But I think a lot of people think that now that we've seen them be semi-successful, that it's time to start drafting for need and not drafting for upside, which I think is not correct in where the Thunder are at in their development cycle.
Really? Oh, man, I'm probably one of those people. I am one of those people in the sense that I don't think you draft for need. I still think you draft probably best available, but man, putting 25 projects, because for me is I'm not thinking about the fact that like
they don't have 25 projects though,
but they have 4 potential draft picks next year, which I know they're not going to use all of those more than likely.
Yeah, you can't use them all.
But I'm like, at some point, like drafting a guy that can come in, because what's the difference between a Jordan Hawkins and a J-Dub as far as, I mean, they're roughly the same age, like coming out. I think J-Dub was a little bit younger, maybe a year younger.
Yeah.
But like to draft a guy that's got a proven success level, and even though he's going to come in at 22,
I'm not saying that you should stay away from players that are 20 in the draft.
yeah,
What I'm saying is like don't think that just because they won 40 games
yeah,
that
they're not a finished product.
that they are what they are and we just need to start adding pieces in. I mean, you draft for upside at this spot, maybe it's a bust. Or maybe you draft somebody who's great and could be like the third best player on this team.
In 3 years.
I mean, how long did it take us to figure out that J-Dub was like going to be like the third best player on the team?
That's just that's the anomaly.
I know, but I'm just saying that it happened
It
last
does,
year.
it does.
Like it literally happened.
But I don't think you don't draft J-Dub because he's the unknown upside guy, right? Like you're drafting J-Dub because you watched what he did in Chicago at the pre-draft, workouts, and then on top of that, as you're seeing a track record, he's a little more established as far as a college player. I think that there was more certainty about J-Dub being a good player. Now to this level, no, of course not. Yeah. I think we're literally splitting hairs having the same conversation. I totally agree. Like you're not just going to go and draft like, hey, who's the best center because we know we need a big to play alongside.
I just think like Hawkins is not. I mean, he would have to show a lot of things that he hasn't shown at UConn in order to become like a higher upside player. Because he just is not going to be somebody that has the ball in his hands. And if you're looking for like high upside, it's usually one of those guys. There's very few players that end up being like all-star caliber players that just run around and shoot. Did
you see how violent Jay just chugged that water?
I did.
I was just mad.
It's very aggressive. It's very aggressive.
So in Sam's mock, in Anthony Black is obviously, we've said this, Andrew's guy.
That's my guy.
He's at 7 to the Trailblazers. Portland is one of those, if they don't get the lottery luck, that they've mentioned that they would look to move.
Yeah.
Thunder can move from 12 to 7.
Yeah.
If they really do love Anthony Black. And that's a guy that for you.
I don't know if they love him. I know that I do. I don't know if they do.
Have you thought about telling him?
Hey, I love this man.
Hey,
he also loves the Thunder.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny?
Uh-huh. And I wonder, like, this is kind of the fun part about regional basketball players. Like, I don't know. I don't know why it's weird to me or unique to me or cool to me, but the fact that both Jay Will and Isaiah Joe played at Fort Smith.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be in the Thunder broadcast area. Like, these guys could have grown up watching Thunder play basketball.
Yeah.
And I know Lou even mentioned that, he loved Russ. He loved watching the Thunder play. So I'm like, to start, this will be the first era of basketball players where, like, Grady Dick's from Wichita.
Yeah.
Like, is there a chance that, because the Thunder, I don't know if they used to do this when he was younger, but now they often will do a preseason game in Wichita, trying to get that fan base to become an Oklahoma City Thunder fan base. I'm like, is there a chance that Grady Dick grew up and his favorite basketball team was Oklahoma City? Like, where all of a sudden it's not like, crap, I'm going to Oklahoma City, but they're like, dang, that's first off a 2.5-hour drive from home.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, this team's loaded. Like, if I was a prospect this year, outside of somebody that's like, I want to come in and be the alpha, Scoot, Wemby, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Because I think Brandon Miller, I know all the legal stuff, but Brandon Miller's going to come in and be a great kind of whatever you need me to do kind of player. He's not going to demand the ball like a Scoot is. Like, he's not going to be that kind of usage guy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at that, is I think that for a lot of these guys, if they were going to say, where would I want to land where I could have success immediately, be developed well, I mean, Oklahoma City has to be real high on that list.
And also for agents too.
Yep.
Like, if you want your guy to be successful and like have a real chance,
yep.
Like, this is not a bad spot for them to land.
And we mentioned it via text earlier this week as we watched Malik Monk just basically change the entire game 2 for the Kings.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He was not looking like he was this guy when he played in Charlotte.
Mm-mm.
Like the Lakers kind of picked him up off the scrap heap.
Yeah.
And to watch a franchise fail its players as badly as a Charlotte does,
Yeah.
what I think Houston will be or do,
Yeah.
man, and you can't avoid it because you're in the draft,
Yeah.
right? Like that's the downfall of the draft is you get drafted where the team drafts you.
Yeah.
But in the end, is I'm like, I don't know, it could make it to where Oklahoma City is at least a little bit higher on. Now, you're not going to be a free agent destination, but do you get this where you have guys that want to develop that are excited to go and play for you? So that doesn't mean anything for the draft, but it's just something that's maybe a encouraging thing for our organization.
Yeah. I mean, you start to hear stories about draft, like pre-draft stuff with teams and how nobody would work out for Houston last year. Like no agent would allow their player to work out like privately for Houston. And so Houston had to like go into the draft a little, blind a little bit, because they didn't want them to have that like contact with their players. And that's something that Sam talked about yesterday is like, he's like, I would never want to draft a player that I hadn't met in person and like had like good conversations with. Because like that is such a big part of, figuring out who you want on your team. It's like not only just watching tape, like you got to watch a lot of tape. That's a part of it, but you also have to know who the player is. And that's what's hard.
Who the person is, right?
Yeah. Who the person, who they are interpersonally is a huge thing. And like, we don't, as people that are like covering the team and, we all love the draft, but there's only so much that we can know about these guys. And we get to do these Zoom calls with them. And I probably place too much emphasis on those just because they are 10 minutes and like, what can you really learn? But yeah, I think some of those are interesting. Like I kind of let like Jonathan Kuminga's particularly, like he was sitting in a car with his phone just kind of like down, like by his belly button and just like barely paying attention to anything. I was like, that's interesting. That's weird. Like J-Dubs, it was me and like two other people on J-Dubs pre-draft Zoom call. I think Ryland Stiles was actually one of those people, which is really funny. And we just got to sit and talk, basically just got to sit and talk to this guy for 10 minutes. And he was incredible. It was probably one of my favorite like pre-draft interviews. And not that those really mean a whole lot, but you can get like a little snapshot of who these guys are. That's also probably why I didn't love Ousmane Dieng in the draft too, is that he just really has a hard time communicating in English. So
when he's also, he is so young.
He's really young.
So young, different language.
Yeah.
Already probably a little more of a passive personality. At least it's what we can see.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of put all those together. I can imagine that's a hard interview.
Yeah, it is a hard interview. He's gotten better though. He's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
Like his interview that he did on Saturday, not that it was like great or groundbreaking in any way, but he was you could tell that he felt more confident speaking to us, which is good. As was like Poku as well. Like Poku's way more relaxed and at ease. I can't believe Poku's going into year 4.
Yeah, it's
He's growing up.
So before we get to the advice section, what are, as far as roster construction going into the summer, like who's eligible for extensions, who's not, who do we want? Like, is there anybody that if the Thunder do or don't do something with them that we can kind of tell what their future looks like?
Poku is the only one left.
Okay.
Like Teo would have been.
So we got to give
part
him
of that too, but he's gone.
the max.
We got to give him the max in order for him to stay. So now I have no clue what those extension negotiations look like. He put 700 minutes this year, and it was his best 700 minutes of his career. It's like, what do you do with that? I don't know.
Just lowball the living crap out of an extension.
I would offer him something. Maybe you give him like a 15% raise on what he's got now, and then you put player option or you put team options on it.
Yes,
and then you just say
shortest amount of years with the team option.
we'll give you 3 years with a team option on the last year, and let's just see how this goes. We want to give you this. Basically, we want to extend this out for the next 4 years just to see how it goes.
And there's nothing about Poku that would indicate that he's going to get his pride's going to get hurt by them saying, "Hey, have you watched your game film? We're not quite ready to throw the bank at you."
I've been very impressed with Poku's maturity this year. Very, very impressed. He deserves a lot of credit because his career has not been, sunshine.
Well, it's a bummer too. He came back from the break. Then it was like a leg break.
Yeah,
and then he hurt himself again, which I was like, he wasn't probably ready.
Hurt himself again, and also inserted into a team that had already kind of formed almost a new identity without him.
Totally and utterly out.
And then, and also inserted into an incredibly competitive environment where it's hey, you can't suck tonight. You're not allowed to.
And he said, "Try me."
Yeah.
Bet.
That was tough, but I give him so much credit because he was, at least his mindset and attitude is very relaxed and pretty resilient. And so I'd like for them to give him just a small extension just to see where this goes. If it doesn't go anywhere, then he'll probably be a great player in Europe.
Yep.
Make a lot of money.
Home.
Live on the beach.
Yeah.
I need to give some advice because I'm about to need to go to work. All right. Searching for advice this week is listener Barrett, who said he saw an explosive news report and he needs some advice. This is the article. He links to an article. I will retweet it. It's a BuzzFeed article that says, headline, Kids YouTube star Blippi, quote, regrets the viral video in which he poops all over his friend.
Blippi?
Before he was Blippi,
oh no,
Mr. Rogers for the YouTube age, he was Steezy Grossman, and he pooped on his friend.
Seriously?
Yes. There's a photo in the article that is an artist's interpretation of what he's doing.
Yeah.
And basically he diarrheas on his friend. Yes. To the Harlem Shake. So Barrett wants to know, he asked for advice. He said, I thought my kids were getting harmless entertainment from some silly guy in an orange hat, but now I'm racked with guilt for unwittingly exposing them to a vicious poo-poo predator. Do you have any advice for how I can move forward? And this is my advice. One, it seems that the diarrhea is consensual. I don't think calling him a predator is correct.
Okay.
It is a consensual. He is consensually diarrheaing on, and the man being diarrheaed on is a consensual experience.
That's a good detail.
The other thing that I think it's safe to have your kids continue to watch Blippi.
Yeah.
But I do think at some point when they're older, this can lead to a teaching conversation about how, because everyone's gonna have to teach their kids about the internet and about using the internet and about what they put on the internet. Mm-hmm. And it's a good opportunity to have a conversation with your kids and say, hey, things that you put on the internet are there forever. They will never go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because you think that defecating on your friend is normal doesn't mean it's not going to come back.
It's going to come. If you do it, it's always going to be there. And if you want to do something different in the future that has a different audience, it's always still going to be there.
If you don't believe that you're going to solely be a person who defecates on others for people's entertainment, maybe don't do it.
Yeah. Or I can show you. I'll show you guys the picture.
I don't really want to see it.
It's a cartoon. It's an artist's interpretation. You're gonna. It's this.
What in the world?
This is what we're talking about. I've seen the actual video.
Goodness.
And it's just what it is. But it's a good way to lead into that conversation. Like, hey, you loved Blippi growing up. Before he became Blippi, he was trying to go for a different audience, and he did this. And it's still there, and people were mad. People were mad at him. He couldn't make it go away because he put it on the internet.
Yeah.
What audience was he going for?
Shocking, of
Just
stuff.
shocking. Just keep going to that one.
You
That
know.
was-
Shocking, mostly.
Shocking, gross,
mostly
gross out
shocking.
humor. You know.
I would say this Blippi is the most annoying thing in the world, and I won't allow my kids to watch it anyways.
Is it really? I don't
Yeah,
watch much
the,
of Blippi.
It's the worst. He's the worst. It's the most annoying.
I get him confused with Bluey.
Bluey's great.
Is he the Australian
It's the
dog?
little-
or
It's the
something?
dog. Yeah,
Bluey's
yeah.
a cartoon.
Blippi is just a
man.
dude that is like made. Basically, started out just making these YouTube videos of him just doing like little kid stuff. I don't know. It's weird. It's not cool. It's annoying. Stay away from Blippi. I'm anti-Blippi, and even more anti-Blippi now.
Does he have kids?
I don't know anything about this man other than he is annoying.
And he just defecates on his friends.
Yes.
Isn't all?
Yeah, so maybe the advice is just stop watching Blippi.
Just stay away from Blippi.
But
That's my advice.
all little kids stuff like this is annoying.
He is a different level.
Blue's Clues, awesome.
He is a different tier of annoying. You give yourself 5 minutes to watch Blippi and you'll know what I'm talking about.
I'm not going to do that. But I'll take your advice.
Luke,
I'm
if you
taking
do
Take
that-
my
your
advice and
I'm
stay
taking
away
your
from
advice.
Blippi.
Luke, if just this evening you throw on Blippi for 10 minutes, I'm going to probably report you.
There's no way I'm doing that.
I know you're not.
Like,
just go to your little ramen place, sit at the bar, and put Blippi up on your phone.
No.
Just,
Pardon me. Could you put some Blippi on the big screen TV, please? Yeah.
Just don't put the poop and Blippi on there.
And I would please. Could you just play this video?
I'm gonna airdrop you a video real quick. Can I
Play
just put it on there? Oh boy. Let's take a quick break, and after that, we'll go over some Twitter questions. And we're back after that quick break. We're gonna send L-Man on to go do his job, and we're gonna answer some Twitter questions.
I'm just more impressed he threw it away.
Questions. You got questions and you ask them on Twitter. Now we answer them for you. This is Twitter questions. Now let's get down to it.
Our first Twitter question comes from Milo Thundamo. He wants to know, say Portland gets the 5th pick and tells Sam that he can have it for 5 future first-round picks. So we'd have the 5th pick and the 12th pick this year. Does this interest us? What is a fair price to pay?
I confess that I don't honestly know what the equity is for that, like what the value is.
Yeah.
So the 5th pick, you're probably looking at one of the Thompson brothers.
Yeah.
You know, and also I don't think that the 5th pick would be worth 5 picks. Now, the truth is, this is probably going to be 5
The
picks.
11th pick was worth 3.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I guess that's all about the value of those picks because you're more than likely those 5 that you're going to give are going to be in the late 20s. Like
it depends on what the picks are. Because if you're trading next year's Houston pick, well, that's worth probably 2 or 3 picks in itself.
Yeah, top 4 protected.
Top 4 protected.
I mean, they could be right outside of that.
Yeah,
pretty easily.
They could be right outside that this year.
Yeah,
you know,
true. Yeah, you would have to just be elated for the guy at 5, and I don't think that's anybody.
Yeah,
and is Portland? And Alex mentioned this, but the reason Portland would want draft picks is so they could do something else with them, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like they fell to 8 in this.
Can we just concede that they need to trade Dame?
They definitely need to trade Dame.
Like, just trade Dame.
They should trade Dame.
Who would be the best Dame landing spot? Miami?
Oh, I just don't like Miami at all, but it would be a really good spot for him.
Yeah, sub Kyle Lowry for Dame.
Yeah,
they just don't have anything to offer, really. Miami doesn't have draft assets you want. If that's what you're going, if you're going to rebuild.
Yeah, I don't think that would not be where I want him to go. I have not really thought about it. I mean, Philly was always the one that made sense.
I mean, maybe if Harden does what he may do and go to Houston, but then you still don't have anything for Philly. Doesn't have picks. That's the hard part. Is any competing team isn't going to have the equity that you really want as far as draft picks.
Yeah. If Brunson wasn't so good, I'd say the Knicks.
Right. Brooklyn.
I mean, they've got the stuff
Yep.
to make it happen. You want to be Blazers East, Brooklyn?
I mean, they would. I feel like they would already have a roster that's better
You'd think.
with Bridges, Cam Johnson. I know they have to re-sign Cam Johnson, but
Yeah.
Claxton, Dinwiddie, like that's a fun. I mean, it'd be fun. They probably are a 4 or 5 seed getting out in the first round until Dame retires. But
Yeah.
for him to go and play a championship, I mean, it's got to be one of the LA teams, which none of them have any assets to give.
Yeah.
You know, the Warriors don't have anything to give.
No. Dallas?
Heck no. I think I didn't mean to take this draft question this far, but I wonder, Luka has such a dominant way of playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way you build that roster is the way that the best versions of the Rockets built theirs. You have to just build it with like Luka, and this is why you don't trade for Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
It's like, because if I'm them, I'm trading for Seth Curry. You know, like I want shooters. Surround him with shooters and give him one big that he can pick and roll with. That's athletic. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make.
I mean,
any
they
sense.
had it too with Brunson because like Harden was at his best in Houston when he had Chris Paul alongside him. You know, which is maybe why you want Kyrie Irving, but also not Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, they seem too similar as far as their way of controlling a game. Because Chris Paul was great because he could do it what he could take over and be the primary ball handler, but at the same time he could spot up and knock down threes, which Kyrie can do that in theory, but Kyrie's just Kyrie.
Also, in what world does Kyrie Irving do something for you this year or next year?
Yeah. I don't know.
Why would you ever want to put your trust in that guy?
Desperation.
That's it. Timothy, spelled with a 1 and a 0 for the I and the O. 413, and the 1 is an L. He's really into changing letters and numbers out. What books are you reading this summer? So I think this is a reference to the Sam Presti press conference last year. Sam said when somebody asks him what books he's reading this summer, that's a signal that the press conference is over. So I remembered that. And that when we got to 2 hours and 17 minutes, I asked Sam, what books are you reading this summer to end the press conference?
Did he laugh?
Everybody was laughing, yeah. Everybody's like, okay.
Attaboy.
I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
He was like, are you serious or
are you just done with this?
Or
interview?
are you done? I said, both. What are you reading this summer?
I've got a whole list of things that I'm potentially reading. There's a book by a guy named Eugene Peterson. I kind of made this decision yesterday, but I've read it. It's his memoir, and he's my favorite pastor, theologian of all time. And he's not really a theologian, but he's just the best. And so he wrote his memoir called The Pastor, and I've read it before, and it's probably something I should just take and read again this summer. I got really into biographies. I didn't realize that, but I read like Dave Grohl's biography last year, and I was like, oh yeah, apparently this is the genre I enjoy reading. And so I've got a few of those on the agenda that I'm kind of at least contemplating reading. I got a book on Sabbath, a couple books on Sabbath and sabbaticals that I'm going to read. And by that, I mean, I've got these like lined up to look at and probably not read.
Yeah.
And it's hard. So I don't know. I'm too distracted to really read well at my house.
Yeah.
And the only books I choose, this is why I need, like, if you're listening or you're watching and you have a suggestion, like I love a good fiction book. Like last year I read Project Hail Mary, which is by the guy who did The Martian, which was fantastic. And like a good novel or a good fiction book that I can just speed through. Most often I do nonfiction. And so I'm like taking notes and I'm writing it. So it's not one of those that I can sit in bed and read. That's why I did like the biography.
You fall asleep?
No, I just like, I'm taking notes. So I'm like scribbling. So I have to like sit up in the bed and I just read a book called Premonition, which is about the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. And anyway, but that was a challenging read. Anyway, so I don't have anything. Like, I wish there was like one novel. Like last year, I read Project Hail Mary. I read Dave Grohl's book, and then I read a book called Not Everything. Oh shoot, Not Everything is Awful. I'll find the name of it, but it was really, I was like, so the 3 books back to back was kind of perfectly timed. So you got any plans?
I listen to audiobooks, so I don't think that qualifies as reading, but because I definitely wouldn't say I read the book, but I listen to books. I do have that David Goggins book, Can't Hurt Me, which is also one that Lindy said that he and
Kenny Loggins.
It's a Kenny Loggins book, David Goggins. I have that I actually have that downloaded, and so I need to read that one. I like psychology books. I was a psych major in college, and so there's a book called.
But they can't be like textbooks.
No. There's one called Get Out of Your Head that I want to read this summer. There's a book called The Sweet Spot too that I've read, but I would like to, or I've listened to it, and I would like to listen to it again. And then same with the book Atomic Habits. Have you read that one?
I listened to that one.
Yeah,
on Audible. It's good. I really wish that I would. I don't do Audible well.
Yeah,
like, which is funny because I absolutely love podcasts.
Yeah.
But I don't do Audible well on books like that, to where I have to kind of pay attention, because there were so many, especially in that one, there's so many great insights that I'm like, I need to back up and how do I mark this or keep this? And so what I did after listening to that book is I actually took the opportunity. I signed up for all of the email lists and ended up where he sends you out like, all right, so here's kind of a summary of some of the ways that you can create atomic habits. And so it's great. I mean, that's a good book.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I'm trying to find the name of that book. And also, like, you can, I love suggestions, like good fiction books you can send to my Twitter at @JRalphSmith. I would love to hear that. Somebody did, I can't remember who it was, just a shout out. I'm wearing it right now. Somebody said, Jay, you need to try bamboo socks. So guess what I did? Bought some bamboo socks. Guess what?
They good?
Good socks.
Wow.
Pretty impressed.
There you go. At Trey Witzel. All season talk has been about how fun it's been with no expectations, and how years that we have expectations are no fun. Help me to be a better fan that can have fun with expectations, or is that even possible?
The book is Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Nayeri. That's the book I read. It was great. He's from Edmond, actually, which is crazy.
Oh, cool.
All right. So what was the question?
How do you have Can you have expectations and fun at the same time?
Oh yeah. I think this is such a cop out, but the expectation is like, just be present for the ride.
Yeah.
Especially this next year. I think that, I would probably take over 40.
Yeah.
Which would make this team a 500 team.
I would take over 40. Yeah.
And the thing that is the most encouraging for me next year is I will have expectations, but I had expectations this year.
Yeah.
Like, I expected them to beat Minnesota.
Yeah.
And be in the playoffs.
A lot of us did.
And get swept by the Nuggets, who apparently figured out how to play basketball again.
Yep.
Helps to play Minnesota. But
yep.
The thing that is the most encouraging for me next year, and you can correct this, and why I'm excited, is I think the starting 5 they're going to roll out has a high likelihood of being the starting 5 for the next 5 to 8 years.
Yeah, I think so too.
So you're going to see like the fullest version of what this next season era of Thunder basketball is.
Yeah. I think it's having reasonable expectations. I think whenever you have expectations of like perfection or any of that, I think that's when things get unreasonable.
Yeah, playoffs. Playoffs are, I think, a healthy expectation. Play in is like, hey, I'll be content.
Yeah, if they got the 7th seed, I don't think that's I think that's a fine I think that's a good
Yeah,
expectation.
because you get to host 2 playing games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least. Maybe you win and you go on.
Yep.
So, I mean, what I would say is, as a part of your expectations, expect for things to get rocky at times. If we can expect that and it not be a surprise, then maybe you're not going to be as frustrated. And also knowing this, that also just expect them to be human. Like, expect like this team to be human. And if we can expect that and realize that these are just human people, and think about your own life, like, when are the times that you have grown the most or made yourself into a better person? It's through like your trials and the struggle is when you become better, not when everything is going awesome. Those are usually the times that you start to slip. And so there's going to be struggle next year. Expect it. Expect there to be struggle, and don't freak out when there is. Because I think that with the character of this team, the character of the coaching staff, like, I can expect them to grow through their struggles. You know, especially talking about like the starting lineup, those guys. That's my expectation for those guys, not necessarily everybody else. Like, I'm not so sure about like guys like Trey Mann and like they're gonna actually like get through this. Maybe they do. I don't necessarily expect that. I have very low expectations for
3
all those
guys on the rotation that I feel like I trust long term.
Yeah.
Jay Will, Isaiah Joe,
Yeah.
Kenrich Williams.
Yeah. And if they
Am I
struggle,
missing anybody?
probably not. And if those guys struggle, like, I expect them to power through the adversity and come out the other side like better players, better people, all that. Same with Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey showed that so many times this year that I think
just look at the play-in.
Yeah.
He played his best game as a Thunder player against New Orleans.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 days before his worst game as a Thunder player.
Yeah.
You know, that's what my suggestion is, like, to just find yourself a middle spot. Because what will also happen next year is not the frustration of the down parts, but I think there will be a few games where you watch this team and they just are exactly what you want them to be.
Yeah.
Chet scores 24, shoots, 7 3-pointers, 6 blocks,
Shea,
10
Giddey, and
rebounds.
J-Dub combined for like 89
Yeah, and they
points or
just
whatever.
blow a team to bits that you're like, they just rolled the Suns or something, like, I think all of that could happen, and you could be like, are we going to win the championship this year? It's like, you can't get too high.
Don't allow
get too low.
Yeah, don't allow the highs to take you to places that you weren't like an hour before then. Yeah, I think that's good advice too. But just, I think just trying to, like, this is just basketball too. Like, this is just a basketball team.
Disagree.
And
this is live.
And I would just say, having like realistic expectations, expecting them to be human, I think like those things can like help you too. And like, we'll do the best we can. Like, I get to be as close to the team as I can. Like, I'll do my best to like humanize these people, as we go along. Because I do think that helps too, to like understand a little bit of who these guys are. I think that helps a lot.
And also, if you have the means, go to the freaking games.
Go to the games and cheer and stand up and scream. And
like, this team deserves to have a full arena and insanity.
Yeah,
and I think it will happen. And then also, Bally Sports, please
figure out a way to get this team on TV.
Away.
Yes, please get them on everybody's TV. Like, get them on YouTube TV again.
Something
where like everybody can watch for a reasonable price.
Yes,
something that people are already paying for. Okay. Jay, are you miffed and are you paved?
Miffed and paved.
I'm always bad at remembering throughout the week what I'm miffed and peeved about. I think one of the things that I'm miffed and peeved about, and you could probably tell if you're watching, but it is allergy season for
my
me.
gosh.
Man. And so I'm like just
too.
constantly, it's always something for me, whether it's a little bit of a nasal drip or, itchy throat. My eyes have been just so rough.
Yeah, bro.
And I've been in Oklahoma for 41 years. And I even went through I went and did allergy shots. I'm like, I take a Zyrtec every morning. I do Flonase every morning and every evening. I do the thing, and still there are seasons where it gets me. And it creates so many other problems where I'm like, I don't sleep well because I'm not breathing well out of my nose. And then my wife just tries to murder me for snoring like a monster in bed. So other than that though, man, life, I'm normally a pretty optimistic guy anyway. And so life's pretty GMB'd.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel about the same. So I have this power washer that I've been using a lot this week, and the hose busted on it, and so I had to go to Home Depot to get it. I buy the hose, bring it back. The hose doesn't plug into the power washer. It's what is it? The wand, whatever it is. It doesn't fit, and so I'm like, what the heck? And so I go back to Home Depot to see if there's a different hose that would fit that. Well, they don't make the hose to fit that wand anymore. You have to buy a whole new power washer handheld thing, and it costs once you buy the hose and that thing, you're within $30 of buying a new power washer.
So what'd you do?
Well, I did it, but it feels like a racket.
Probably a racket.
I was pretty miffed about that.
We got power washing is just it's all over. The oddly satisfying. There's videos of people just power washing things.
Yeah.
So the worst situation in that would have been is that you got halfway through. It's like whenever you have trimmers, you don't have a beard, but when I have a beard and I get halfway through, my trimmers are like, dang it, I'm out of battery.
No.
Half trimmed. And
yeah.
And so that's kind of that's what you didn't want to do with.
I was halfway done with my house. Yeah. I had to.
You wash the outside with power washer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done that as much, but I do it on our patio. We get mud and all sorts of stuff.
I've done patio. I've done the house. We're just power washing.
Which is the crazy thing. This is just one of those activities that I'll do, and my body all of a sudden is like, oh, apparently power washing hurts my shoulder. Done. I'm like, why am I sore? What did I do today?
That's how I am with pulling weeds.
Yep. Oh, that's your back's a nightmare on that one. Do you have one of those? They have these tools. This is the segment called Jay and Andrew are suburban dads. They have these tools where you can stomp them into the weed and then just kind of pry them out.
What is it called?
I don't know.
What is it called?
I don't know. It's probably doesn't actually work, but
weed remover tool. So I'm looking at. Oh, I see it.
So I don't use it because we have a very scorched earth policy with weeds.
Yeah.
So we get our yard sprayed by a company, and then my wife she has a sprayer, and so she keeps trying to find non-Roundup chemicals to destroy these weeds. Yeah. So our whole backyard smells like vinegar because there's one vinegar-based one. So anyway.
Hey, there's a hot air balloon right behind you. Yeah. I don't know.
I could never get in one of those, by the way. Suspended above the earth in a wicker basket.
I know. I feel like the hot air balloon technology hasn't changed in a long time.
No, they stick with it.
Yeah. All right. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll have more podcasts for you next week. We just keep going. We don't stop.
Nope. You can also join us for our sub podcast called What Bothers Us in Housekeeping next week.
We could do a podcast.
So I can talk about my pool.
We could really do a podcast about that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys again on Monday.